Good afternoon. Thank you and welcome to our Montgomery County Economic Development Committee work session. Thank you for the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation staff for being here today. Thank you for your time, talking about all the work that you guys have done and what's coming up in the future. We have 2 items on the agenda. First, we're going to talk about what you guys have been working on and understanding very well that your board is still searching for that amazing candidate. That's all I'm going to say, but I do believe that, it's better for them to take their time and find that ideal person than rushing a decision, so I support that. And with that, let's kick it off for now. Okay.
Good afternoon. So yes, we are here for 2 items related to MCEDC. The main reason for this meeting is that there is a resolution to redesignate them as the county's Economic Development Corporation. I think the committee also saw an opportunity to really do a deep dive into MCEDC and learn a little bit more comprehensively about their day-to-day work. And so we've put together a briefing here generally to understand, how does MCEDC achieve elements required of them through their work plan, which is obviously the main reason for them serving as an economic development corporation. What kind of work do they support in the county? What outcomes have come as a result of their specific role on county-wide projects, and what projects are in the pipeline? Just trying to get an understanding of all of that. In order to sort of tackle this rigorously, we broke apart their work plan, looked at it for each of the 4 tasks that are in their business attraction, business retention, marketing, and other initiatives. Each of those have tasks and subtasks under them, and so it created a grid for them to basically fill in with what work do they do with respect to each element in the work plan, what outcomes have come out of that. One general question committee members may want to ask as the discussion opens up is, what specific cases and projects has this work led to? Are there case studies that kind of demonstrate how the work plan kind of leads to these outcomes, as opposed to just discretely what they do on their own? You can see that the packet is very detailed. That grid verbatim is provided in the packet to you. So there's a lot of information there, like I said, to understand their day-to-day work. I'm just going to run through the main tasks and subtasks that we pulled out for them to comment on, for which you have all the evidence in your packet. So the first main task in their work plan is business attraction. Within it, there are 5 tasks and subtasks. Those are leveraging industry events and trade shows, site selector engagement, broker engagement, strategic partnerships in target markets, and site activation for business attraction. You can see some of the subtasks and elements as underneath each of those, and the work that they're doing. They're attending, events. They're whether those are conferences or site selector events. They're hosting their own panels and events within those. They're making direct connections, and all of that is stipulated in their work plan. For business retention, the main tasks that they have are relationship building and tracking and measuring the outcomes of those relationships, identifying key businesses for retention and growth within the county, partnering strategically for collaboration for business visits and working with county government to do that. They are hosting ongoing engagement initiatives. They are engaging brokers, and new in FY26 is an onboarding program for new businesses that they'll be undertaking this year, providing like a welcome email and just letting them know of the resource that MCEDC can be for them. In terms of marketing, they support they're going to continue to ramp up their attraction efforts domestically and internationally. They'll, they're going to do strategic market positioning, grow brand awareness for the county and visibility within key target markets. And they're also supporting the business retention and expansion plans through marketing as well. 4 of the strategic initiatives identified for FY26 include supporting Mobilize Montgomery, supporting the Institute for Health Computing, developing and preparing a strategic plan, as well as the University of Shady Grove talent pipeline. I just want to make one note on the record that The packet states that they were going to wait to undertake the strategic plan until the CEO is hired. That's not the case. They are continuing with the procurement and will begin that effort, and then the CEO can get involved once they are selected and hired. In addition to the grid, which provides a lot of information, we also asked a few specific questions. Wanted MCEDC to expand a little bit more on their specific role in projects where they collaborate with other county agencies. So what is the work that you're doing in those sort of collaborations? They have also consulted recently with JLL on site selection best practices for the county. So we asked them to spell out, what have you learned and incorporated into your work based on that consultation. Also asked just from their expertise, what are policy concepts that the county can explore to be more attractive to site selectors based on that consultation with JLL. And they've also provided a few fiscal years worth of marketing metrics for you all, as well as a staffing update about what vacancies they have within their organization. Happy to get into the weeds on some of the specific responses that they provided. You can also obviously direct your questions to them.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. I would like to highlight just a couple of things before MCEDC's team speaks. One of them is just a reminder that it was this committee working in coordination with MCEDC and the county executives team that really made clear what the function or the expectations that we have from us to you. And that was divided in three things. One, business attraction, business retention, and marketing. And I'm just glad that we continue on that theme, because that having clarity on what you're supposed to be doing versus what the county is supposed to be doing really makes a huge difference in the work that the Small Business Center has done to complement. And I do like this because Mr. Ken Hartman Espada is right behind you guys. It really, having that clarity, it helps everybody. And just the fact that you started the whole presentation highlighting those three huge buckets is helpful. So that's one thing. I do look forward to hearing from you as you move on and say your piece. To do emphasize the issues of collaborations, what else we should be doing. I also wanted to say that it was great that we had the site selection meeting that was, a month ago or so. That was great. And not just because it was with you guys, but it was with board members of MCEDC. And I think that type of coordination and making sure that we're all in the same room is very helpful. At the end of the day, it's one county. When we go overseas, and I've been to Taiwan with a county executive, people don't see MCEDC or, the county council. It's Montgomery County. And I think it starts with us making sure that we talk to each other, understand each other, and work together. That's how we succeed. With that, I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourselves and comment on the work that you have done.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Jill Brooks. I'm the interim chief operating officer at MCEDC.
Good afternoon. My name is Prayas Nupani. I'm one of the directors of economic development, and I primarily focus on business attraction efforts. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the business attraction efforts. But just to provide a couple of examples of the work that we're doing right now, there's two major lines of work. One is definitely site selector engagement, and we heard during the board meeting on who the site selectors are and the work they're doing. And for the last 2 years, we've spent a lot of time making sure the site selectors understand what is the value of Montgomery County, why should companies come here. And for us, the primary goal with this engagement is to get requests for information, right? So unless we are able to compete, we can't win, right? So the number one step for us is to compete. And over the course of the last 2 years, we have had just about 11 requests for information for very large projects in the county. Out of that, five of the projects we're still actively working on. One project we actually have won, and the other 5 actually has paused. So a lot of companies are not making decisions right now based on what's happening in the global climate. But at least that tells us we're competing, right? And in regards to site selector engagement, we also recently hosted a FAM tour where we brought together 5 consultants from all around the country. And that was a particularly striking for us because, everyone knows that we're number 3, right? These site selectors have better data than we do, so we don't really need to educate them on data. But one of the things that they said when they came here and kind of talked to the executives of the companies and saw our talent pipeline as well as some of the work that we're doing here, they said, it's impressive to know that you're number 3, but we were not aware of the breadth and depth of the innovation that's taking place in Montgomery County. And they were particularly impressed to see that companies are continuing to invest and expand within the county. So rather than new companies coming in, they were impressed to see a company that's been here for 75 years has invested another 30, 40 million into the facility. So when that sort of narrative sticks with the site selector, I think that goes a long way for us. So we will continue to build on that, and we're pretty excited that that was a success for us, and we look forward to bringing more site selectors in the spring as well.
So as you move forward, at some point when we hit the marketing portion of this, because again, it's attraction, retention, and marketing, how are you going to be promoting those successful stories, right? That's what it's great that the site selectors are listening to it, but I will also want, everybody else to pay attention on what's really happening here.
Absolutely, Councilmember. And Manu will talk about the marketing that's going to come out of that. The second line of work is trade shows, right? So we've been attending trade shows for the strategic sectors that we have, which is just the 3 sectors that I had talked about previously: life sciences, technology, and satellite and advanced telecommunications. And the goal for us to go to these trade shows is to have leads, which are companies that might be looking to expand and grow. But these companies, we generally go there, but it takes us a long time to build that relationship and convert that into a project. So just to give you an example, last year we went to Select USA, met with just about 39 companies there, which we consider leads at this point, but out of that, 4 have expressed interest in moving to Montgomery County. They haven't decided yet, but at least they have said, hey, we are open to that. So we will continue to work on that. And I'll leave with a final example of a company that we met at a trade show, a German defense company that was looking for a space in North America, and we're able to work with them. And particularly the incentive, the MOVE grant that we have was very appealing. Councilmember Glass, thank you for the work that you did on that, as well as the entire council. So that was very striking for them, and because of that, rather than opening an office in DC, they moved to. They have now signed a lease for 2,500 square feet in Montgomery County. They are currently hiring 3 employees just for their sales team, but just 2,500 square feet, meaning they will definitely grow and expand in the future. So that's the kind of work that we're doing with the attraction team right now.
Good afternoon, Lori Babb, Director of Economic Development, and I focus on our business retention and expansion efforts. As Preya said, I just want to piggyback on the discussion about the FAM tour when we had those site selectors here. I think one of the other things that happened while we had those site selectors from around the country here, they commented on how close our business community is, our existing companies, the partnerships that they saw, and how the companies that we visited would say great things about another company in the area. So I think that goes to the relationships that the companies within the ecosystem, within their own individual industry sectors have with each other. And a lot of that is, about that relationship building and, the cross-collaboration opportunities that we have. And I think we'll continue to see more of that and to see that grow. One of the biggest things that we do on the business retention side is identifying key businesses in the county that we need to make sure we're connecting with and building these relationships with. So part of the way that we do that is a number of things, and you've heard about reaching out to companies who have expiring leases. That's certainly one way that we identify companies to connect with, but also companies who have just raised a lot of venture capital or gotten some sort of private equity investment in their company. A great example of that, and a reason that triggered outreach from our team, is X Energy. They had moved to the county in 2019 from Greenbelt, so MCEDC has kind of had an ongoing relationship, checking in with them every now and again. Nuclear was never a target industry for us, so they weren't, certainly weren't one of our key industry segments, but as a large employer and an emerging technology company, we would engage with them. About a year ago, we saw from PitchBook notification that they had received a $500 million investment, which triggered us to reach out to them and see if we could schedule a meeting, just kind of catch up, see what was going on. And we're able to connect almost immediately with their head of government relations and met with her, had a great meeting to learn about that new investment from Amazon and how they were going to be expanding their innovative nuclear capabilities. And then almost immediately after that, we, again, because of that relationship building, heard from them that, X-Energy's in the market to determine, are they going to keep their headquarters here in Montgomery County or are they going to relocate elsewhere? So we were very engaged with them and their brokers. It was definitely a competitive, it was not just Montgomery County they were looking at, it was not just Maryland they were looking at. Again, because they're building these nuclear facilities in Texas or Tennessee. So there was, high possibility that they would relocate their headquarters to go, on location where those types of things were happening. We worked very hard on that project and, are happy to announce that X-Energy has said that they're going to stay here in Montgomery County. They are moving from Rockville to Gaithersburg. They'll be expanding their square footage in the city of Gaithersburg and adding 500 new jobs over the course of the next 5 years. So that is an example of a great retention project that we work on and very actively work on and continue to do those types of things on a daily basis. So.
Hi, good afternoon. Manolizia Hashmi, Director of Marketing Communications. So, as you know, we've gone through a bit of a transition, and one of the main changes in terms of marketing communication strategy is really focusing on events. So I think for looking ahead, you were talking about collaboration. One of the main things that we have focused on is making sure that we're coordinating properly with other agencies, with other organizations, the chambers. There's a layer of an importance to that collaboration that's really come through with Mobilize Montgomery. I think it was very evident, the depth of both the strategy work that we delivered, but of that coordination across the county. And it's truly a coalition or an evidence of coalition. It was a really successful project. I think that's something that we're hopefully continuing to support going forward. But going back to the FAM tour that you were mentioning earlier, one of the most fascinating things that I heard directly from the site selectors was the importance, Lori spoke a little bit about this, the importance of the ecosystem and how they see how much the companies are bought in to the ecosystem. So what that means from us, from a marketing communication strategy, is that the better not only relationships we have with them from a business needs, but the more that we are actually sharing about their participation in the community, their efforts within, their work, their partnerships, the work that they're doing within the community, the better for site selectors, because they see that as a true embedment of the company within the community. So one of the things that we were able to do during that FAM tour was collect video testimonials, which you'll see being published soon. We have campaigns, planned out to share those video testimonials from the FAM tours. We also kicked off our sites, specific sites promotion. So we're working with the main publications within the site selector world and have started to work with the county on highlighting specific sites. So that's something that's on the pipeline to support our attraction efforts with site selectors. And then for business retention and expansion, that's marketing communications efforts in general. We're here to support the attraction and the retention plans. But we are working a lot on the ground events. We're working a lot on that collaboration. We're also working on lease expirations. We still have that effort. So there's just a lot of content generation that helps just promote resources that are available in Montgomery County that I don't think we've had that the scale in which we're able to promote those resources hasn't quite been where we can take it to where it needs to be. And one of the things that we were pending on was the onboarding of a new team. And so that's something else that has happened just now at the end of October. We have a brand new team. So I think it's a very exciting time for MCDC in general.
That's very exciting. Before I open it up for questions, I have a couple of things that I'm hoping that you can talk about. But before I do that, when you talk about the videos and everything that you're doing with marketing, when I was in Taiwan with account executive, one thing that people was asking me constantly was not just how we're going to be supporting businesses to move or open offices in Montgomery County, but how is the quality of life for the employees? And I think your whole comments about the sense of the ecosystem and the sense of collaboration, between companies, that says a lot about the quality of life. Yeah. So wondering, as you do videos and marketing about particular sites and employers, you can also talk about how is the life of a particular employee in that company. For example, where does Manu volunteer in Montgomery County? Where does she go for a walk? Right. How is the connection between my job and the after school activities of my kids? Quite a few that have a social life. I don't. Like how is that interaction? Because that will speak highly of what Montgomery County is all about. We are truly a welcoming community. No matter what your background, no matter how much money you make, if you go to a park in Montgomery County, I can guarantee you that you're going to have somebody who's making, $30,000 a year and somebody who's making millions in the same playground playing. Believe it or not, I believe so. It's the reality here. And we need to tell that story. It's important to tell that story because people, especially around the world, and even around the U.S., people want that. They want to say, is it going to be welcoming to me making X amount of money, but is it going to be also welcoming for the person who's cleaning my office at night? So that's I don't want you to lose that.
I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, I remember our meetings with Councilmember Sales. We talked about making several tweaks to our messaging and being able to incorporate that quality of life a lot more. Beautiful. There's some work that we are still having to do, and also we're waiting for a new CEO, as that person will likely want to put some thoughts and give their opinions as to new content creation.
What our opinion.
Yes, exactly. But I think that's a very valid point. One of the things that's really difficult sometimes to encapsulate or to share visually is that, excuse me, my layman's terms, is the vibe in Montgomery County, right? So it's just that interaction, is that mixture, that culture is so unique. I myself am very passionate about Montgomery County, biased because I live here. But so one of the ways we're going to try to encapsulate that, because in a static visual image and with some text you can only go so far, is by showcasing that vibrancy, that culture through film. And so we're working on different ways. We're actually planning on some drone filming around different clusters within the county. It was someone in a conference that had come from Boston at the BioHealth who had pulled me aside and mentioned, but how exactly, if I come here at 10 a.m., do I see people going to restaurants? Tell me about the clusters. Like they can look at the cluster on a map. They can see the companies that are listed, but it's difficult to get the vibe and how, what's the energy within that cluster. So we're hoping to do that with some creative video content. But yeah, I think all in all, the quality of life is a key part of our value proposition and messaging, and something that you'll definitely see more of going forward as we create new content.
Perfect. And then the whole discussion that we had in a prior meeting on manufacturing, how can we attract more manufacturers to come in Montgomery County? I know that's a conversation that we're also going to be having with the planning department, looking at zoning. So I'm not going to ask you that, but I feel that I need to remind you that we expect that at some point. And the last thing before I pass it to colleagues, you do have in the packet, I'm looking at the MCDC interim work plan FY26. And you have new, on circle page 3, new for FY26, the Cybersecurity Summit, the Global Cyber Innovation Summit. I am in love with that, just because, as a nation, as we move forward with AI, 5G, quantum, and all that. I think it's important to bring that into the conversation of creating a stronger pipeline for talent. And as I have said before, even in the very first work session that we had in ECON 3 years ago, guys, already, I think. Yeah, almost 3 years at this point. Education and the partnership that we have with the school system is important. In my wildest dream, I wish that we have more of the current companies that we have in Montgomery County dealing with IT, working with you guys and the school system, offering grants for paid internships for high school students to go to, United Therapeutics, to Marriott, but in terms of the IT department that they have. Like, kids need to be exposed. If we want to be number one in the nation instead of being number 3, we have to intentionally work on that pipeline. And that means corporations that you already are working with, offering money for these grants, because even though we have the, what's it called again? The Summer Rise program in Montgomery County, the government cannot pay for everything. And I think it's about social responsibility of making sure kids who don't have those parents who are connected to open doors in that particular company so they can work on, we need to be more proactive in offering those grants for paid internships in high school. So that needs to be something that you guys need to be more proactive, working with us in the school system, but I think it's a must as we continue with this. And I'll be quiet if you have something to say. If not, I'm going to open it up. No? Okay. Councilmember Balcom.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all. I just want to start by thanking the board, the staff, everyone involved. The board really stepped up in terms of hands-on oversight. I thank you, Ms. Brooks, for stepping in and making sure the trains are running on time. I appreciate that. But really, to the staff, I think that you've done a fantastic job at a time of great uncertainty, of just really providing the stability, particularly Lori and Preyas, the long-term stability, and Manu for stepping into this role at a crazy time and really making a great difference. So just sincere thank you for everything you've done in the past 4 or 5 months, really. So appreciate that. I do want to lift up Mobilize Montgomery and your role in Mobilize Montgomery. So important, and you are very instrumental in making that happen with our partners. So appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Ali, for clarifying the strategic plan. So the strategic plan is moving forward and will be hopefully the vendor in place when the new CEO arrives. So appreciate that. I think that this work plan really just shows the significant breadth of activity that's taking place and how it all interacts. And I think that the next time that you're here in front of us, I would like to get more into the metrics of looking at the outcomes, specific outcomes. So I think that's important. And I'm really excited about the site selection work. I think that that's something that that just makes so much sense. Why didn't we do it years ago, right? So, but I think it's really important. I was pleased to be included in the FAM tour to meet with people from, who weren't from Montgomery County, to be able to share how great we are, and for them to reflect back. I saw them at the end of the day, and for them to reflect back on how great it was to learn more about Montgomery County, and really great questions that they asked. And so I think that that's certainly something that we want to see more of. So I appreciate that. The only thing I would say from talking about videos, I just want to, there is a balance between being fresh and exciting and having a shelf life. And we want to make sure that we're not spending a lot of money and then all of a sudden they're not relevant. So, and I think that I'll leave it to you to make that distinction, but we want to be fresh and exciting. But this isn't a TikTok video, right? So I think we've got to make sure that it's got a shelf life on that. And then also from the perspective of focusing on events, I think we need to be careful about the metric of those events. And this is something that years ago I said for years. It's not just how many events you attended, right? The metric has to be specifically lead focused, right? So those are my thoughts. I don't know if you want to respond.
Yeah, I think on the video, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we are very much taking a strategic focus to all of our content, all of our branding, all of our visuals. We also want to move away from that previous, start something, 3 months later pivot, 3 months later pivot. Right. We need to have something consistent enough to actually measure and see if it works. So I couldn't agree with you more on that. On the events, I also agree. I think it's a lot more than just being at the event. We have now a coordinator, a meetings and events coordinator, to just support us. We have over 48 events planned for fiscal 26. That's a lot of events for our small staff organization. And we're not just measuring the leads generated at the event. We're measuring the number of meetings. We're measuring what types of companies come in, size of companies, whether they are the right, the audience within that event is the right title. Is that the right target audience for us? Mm-hmm. So I think we're really focused on developing this kind of event-based lead generation program that is, I think to all of us it makes more sense than trying to find the needle in the haystack, which takes a lot of advertising dollars, which none of us have. So that the metrics for events is a must, and I agree with that.
Yeah, and Councilmember, I think in the past, the organization has attended events with the hope to meet with companies, but we're taking a different approach now, right? So we're reaching out to companies prior to attending events. So when we're attending, we already have meetings scheduled. So just to give you an example, we have attended 5 different conferences for business attraction this year, and each of those we are averaging around 30 meetings. And then once the meetings takes place, then we come back and kind of do the follow-up with the companies with the hope that it will eventually turn into a project for us. So it's really, we're really focused on leads at this point. And we're trying to think whether or not events is the right thing for us. And for this year, this is our brand new strategy, right? So I think we won't know whether or not this is going to work for us in 3 years, but based on what we're seeing so far, we're very confident that it will.
Yeah, and I'll also say, so Manu mentioned 48 events this year. Part of the strategy is to get immediate feedback from staff who attend these, whether it's worth attending again. So we're not just going to go. It's let's evaluate the outcome that we're going to have. Can we schedule meetings ahead of time? Are we generating any leads? Are there the right types of companies there that we are looking for that make sense for Montgomery County's market? So we do 48 plus events this year. My guess is that number is going to be lower next year, or will be the same because we'll go to different events to try those out to see if they fit our market and what we're trying to do to generate those leads. But we are definitely being more strategic and focused on the types of events and getting that immediate feedback from staff on this. It was interesting, but it was not a lead generation event, probably not worth our time attending, that kind of thing. So we are being much more deliberate about that this year.
Councilmember Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for the presentation this afternoon. I don't have any specific questions, but want to extend my appreciation for you all for continuing your due diligence and doing this work, and also express my appreciation to the board who have stepped up in immeasurable ways to help lead the organization, provide guidance to you, and engage in direct communication with those of us who are following your work, supporting your work, and knowing how important it is. So for your board who are following us online, taking time out of everything else that they do. We appreciate them and look forward to the announcement when time is ready for who the next leader and CEO of this organization is. Thank you.
Councilmember Sales.
Thank you, and thank you for the brief check-in. It's always good to hear what the Economic Development Corporation is up to. I always am curious about what's behind the numbers and the data, and so just so I'm clear, you mentioned 5 conferences recently in the last 6 months?
In the last 3 months.
3 months. 30 meetings at each of those?
Averaging around 30, Councilmember.
So 150 opportunities to get in front of companies.
Yes.
What are you pitching them?
So we are pitching them Montgomery County and why if they are considering expansion opportunities or relocation, they should consider Montgomery County.
Okay, and what are you taking away from those, and how many of those resulted in leads?
Yeah, for this year, for the conferences that we have attended, Councilmember, the 150, we consider them leads, meaning we just have had the meetings, but there is not an opportunity yet. We'll follow those companies over the course of next year or 2 years to see any opportunity arises from that. But just to give you an example from previous year, so Select USA, we had met with just about 39 companies there, and we have potentially 4 companies that have said, we are interested, there is an opportunity here, so let's continue the conversation. So we're actively working with those 4 companies at the moment.
To do what exactly?
To relocate to Montgomery County, to start an open office here or either go into our incubator system. So for us, our primary goal is for them to establish a presence here in the county.
No, that is the ultimate goal, but how do you track and monitor that progress? Do you have like a system where it's like, we're at this session, we're going to be signing a MOU, a contract? Like, how many steps are you tracking, or have you created from I met you to I'm signing a contract to get space in the county?
Yes. So finally, we're able to track that.
What's the roadmap?
Yeah, in the last year, we built a completely new lead generation process, and that is part of the process where we know where we met with the company and how long it took us and how many times did we touch the company and the kind of assistance that we provided, so that we went from a meeting to a project. So we are able to track that.
Okay, so of those 4 companies, is anyone in a contract phase yet?
Not
or
yet.
You're still talking?
We're actively talking to them.
So after you meet with those 150 companies, what's your follow-up? How often are you following up, and is it just you alone or a whole team of you following up?
So it really depends. If a company says this is an active project, we might be considering moving within a year, we might touch base with them on every a month or even earlier than that. But if a company says, hey, this is like 2 years out, then we'll touch base with them on a quarterly basis. And the goal here is multiple touch points so that they are always thinking of us.
And so how many of you from MCDC are attending these meetings? Are you just doing these 30 meetings by yourself?
No, council members. So we have on the attraction team there's 3 of us, and on the retention team there's 5 of us. So a total of 8 of us that will be doing this work together.
Okay, so 8 people going to 150 meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, how much are these conferences costing MCDC?
We can share that numbers with you, Councilmember. I don't think I have that on top of my head.
Okay.
Our event budget for fiscal 26 is $315,000.
Okay. All right. And then I couldn't tell from the report, so I don't know if this is part of the strategic plan, but over the weekend, Councilmember Balcom and I attended the Montgomery County Historical Society conference over the weekend. Oh, yes, I did see our chairwoman there. Yes. And then during our session, someone mentioned a 2017 report. I had never heard of this report, The Road to Zero Wealth. How the racial wealth divide is hollowing out America's middle class. It was developed by the Prosperity Now and Institute for Policy Studies. And so in this report, it talked about how the Black and Latino middle class is being wiped out. And we know that since the government shut down with small businesses and contract opportunities, Black women were among the most impacted in our community. And looking through this packet, I noted a lack of detailed descriptions of your activities relating to attracting, supporting, or even engaging with small, minority, or women-owned businesses. And so if anyone can tell me how you engage with small and minority-owned businesses and how you evaluate the unique needs of these groups.
It's on a different
So,
report.
yeah, I mean, so we engage with them regularly. And I can tell you during the first quarter of this year, we engaged with 314 unique businesses. Of those, 133 of those companies were controlled by a person that was either of an ethnic minority, a person with a disability, veteran-owned, or woman-owned company. So we do actively engage with them. Small businesses, we have the Montgomery County Business Center and MCEDC. Our focus is our target industry sectors. So we will work with companies of any size within those target industry sectors. The Business Center works with small businesses in retail and service industry sectors and things like that. So we really kind of divide those responsibilities specific to small businesses, but we are working with woman-owned and minority-owned businesses regularly, and we do report that out. It's in a different report that we report, but it is in our Q1 report. So we are actively engaged with them.
Did you have something to add?
I was just going to say economic inclusion has always been part of MCDC's mission, and I think it will continue to be.
Yeah, it would be interesting to better understand if you're doing a targeted engagement, if there is like a specialized program. Are you collaborating with any of our chambers to do outreach? I know that the executive director of the Silver Springs Chamber of Commerce, Stephanie, has been very intentional about partnering with all sorts of our businesses by partnering with our minority-owned chambers. And so I just want to make sure I understand, because, you know, I talk to a lot of people about MCDC. When I go to these chamber events, and they're like, what is MCDC? What do they do? How are they on the ground with the businesses? And so I know you're working with large corporations, and I'm just, you know, trying to better understand how we're...
It's a great question, and there is confusion. Again, many companies that are members of the smaller chambers are retail or service providers. So again, would fall into those industries that we are not actively engaging with. But we do partner with the Hispanic Chamber, with the Black Chamber. We have always been a sponsor of the AMBER training program, and go to the graduations for every cohort for that program. So we do engage actively. We also manage the ACE Loan Fund program, which is part of the state's video lottery terminal fund that offers loans to small woman-owned and minority-owned businesses. And we, MCDC, are the local fund manager for that program, and partner with the Latino Economic Development Council, LEDC, as our fiduciary partner on that program. So we are actively engaged, but it is not, again, we don't have a person on staff who's dedicated solely to doing that. But all of us are engaged with those companies and support the woman-owned and minority-owned.
So how do you make it a two-way conversation? How do those minority-owned businesses tell you what they need to bring their business here in Montgomery County? What's missing? Like, I met with 150 companies and they just haven't made the move. Is it financial barriers or timing? Is it the market? What are you hearing from these businesses? And then what are you hearing from the minority businesses that you engage with?
So I can just talk about the businesses in general, council member. Right now, because of the economic climate, there's not a lot of movement. As you know, the funding in life sciences is not as robust as in previous years, which is why you haven't seen a lot of movement there. And just to give an example, we did get a couple of RFIs, requests for information, last year. And right as we provided the information to them about Montgomery County, we were told that the company has decided to pause their move at this point. So we're seeing that a lot. right now, and I think it has to do with the global economic climate. So hopefully, once that starts changing, we'll start to see a little bit more movement. And in terms of minority-owned businesses, again, that's one of the categories that we always look at. So when we profile a company, we are intentional about thinking about who the owners are, and we use that as one of the outreach tools. And the conversation with them is very similar for us.
And so I know that you're waiting for a permanent executive director to come. And so are you proposing ways or looking at ways that you can track data now so that when you do have someone permanent, you all can, reflect on how data is being collected and evaluated and build upon that in any way?
Yes. So for the last year and a half, we've been building processes and systems in place that can track data of the work that we're doing. So we're happy to, at this point, everything that we need is fully built out.
What are you all tracking right now, besides where you're visiting?
So we're tracking the kind of businesses that we're meeting with, the stages of the businesses that they are in, what markets that those businesses are in. We are also able to tell what kind of funding these businesses are getting. We are able to tell when their lease is going to expire in different markets. Mm-hmm. So it really depends, council member. I think we have a way to kind of analyze the targets that we're going after much better than previous years. And once we build that indicator sets, that is how we start targeting the companies that might move and grow at a certain point.
So is that how you determine the work plan for the team right now as you're evaluating who's going to come in permanently based on that data that you're collecting?
So the work plan for us is what the organization is going to focus on: attraction, retention, and marketing. And we have data sets that supports each of those efforts.
Okay, so quarter one, how many businesses have we attracted?
So I don't have total jobs that for projects we were involved with for quarter one were 1,080 jobs either attracted or retained for the first quarter.
And do we have any details about the industry or salary related to those jobs? Because I remember the last report we had, it was mostly like, retail and hospitality, fast food. So
that wouldn't have been for us. No, I mean that's was 7 projects we've closed and won 7 projects during the first quarter of this fiscal year for 1,042 jobs. 991 of those were in the technology industry, 48 in the hospitality industry, 3 in the defense industry.
Okay.
So we do track that. We do have those numbers,
And how are you sharing that outside of the newsletter? Is there a social media aspect of your
We don't report quarterly on social. We have a quarterly report that goes to the county. We don't share that information sort of on a quarterly basis. We do have the annual report, which we are actually getting ready to publish this week for fiscal 25.
Okay. But we do, in the newsletter, we'll report individual wins and things like that.
We'll highlight those stories, yes.
Yes.
But just not the metrics in terms of where we are against our work plan. We don't typically report that on social.
No, I see, I subscribe to the newsletter, but I know that a lot of potential businesses that may want to move here, advertise updates on LinkedIn. And so thinking about industry and how we can continue to stay relevant as we're going through these transitions, it might be helpful to, celebrate some of those wins and think about unique ways to advertise the progress that we're making. Because I didn't realize, what kind of jobs we're, attracting, retaining, good paying jobs. It would be helpful to better understand how we are.
Yes, so I agree with you 110% on highlighting the wins, particularly the stories of the companies that are relocating to Montgomery County. We have just recently started doing that in a systematically way on social media. So we have a welcoming templates now that we can use and do that as we learn about companies relocating to Montgomery County. And on our newsletters, which we'll continue to build on, we do share, what's going on with our companies, and also because now we have a dedicated, we've had him for a while, I guess, a research analyst. Our research department also helps us put together kind of a snapshot of what the financial investments, so data related to the amount of VC funding that Montgomery County companies have received. We do that on a monthly basis through our newsletters, which I think is what you're talking about, just like showcasing what the activity is within the county. But yes, I agree with you. So we'll continue to do those.
Yeah, LinkedIn would be good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. A lot of that data is also included in our quarterly economic indicators briefing that we partner with the Department of Planning to put together and present to you guys. So a lot of that salary information and things like that are included in that
Millions
report.
of people are probably tuning in or saving this for later, but it would be nice to meet them wherever we can.
Agreed.
And as you are, talking about those businesses, I know that we have seen that a lot of people talk about Montgomery County's permitting or, the process for starting a business, opening the business. Do you have any information about any businesses that are still experiencing any issues or challenges with permitting, or anything that you can provide with regards to the 30, 60, 90-day reviews that you recommended in the report?
No, actually, we've had some great successes with improvements made there, and the team at DPS, Robbie Sabakan and his whole team, have been fantastic in working with us. And if we're working with a company and they have questions about the process or how long is it going to take, we reach out and schedule a meeting, and they're happy to sit down and meet with us and the companies and talk them through the process and what they can expect, et cetera. So, no, it's been market improvement over the last couple of years, and we're actually excited to work with the team at DPS.
Well, that's good to know, because, if we don't share our narrative of how we're improving and how people are, experiencing the system and they're not having any challenges, someone else will tell our narrative. And so it would be helpful to share those success stories about, it was so easy to move my business here and so was so helpful. Those testimonials go a long way in changing how people feel about doing business in our county. And we should be the ones that tell people how great it is and becoming because of the changes that we have implemented here.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Sauls, for your great questions and comments. DPS, I'm glad you said what you said, because it has been this committee, when we had DPS in front of us, and we have pushed them to change the culture towards a yes culture. It's not about catching somebody because they're doing something wrong. It's about helping them, overcome that obstacle so they can do business here. And I know under the current director, Robbie Sabakan, the whole department has moved forward, and I'm very proud of them. So thank you for saying that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the last item for the agenda. I think we're done with this one. It's final one. It's a resolution to redesignate Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation as the county's economic development corporation for the next 5 years. A reminder that we expect your strategic plan by end of July 2026. I know you're working on it already, but know that we're eager to have a work session about it and to tell the world about the amazing work that you guys are doing. With that, I'm going to ask council staff to say anything else that we need to be said besides what I just said.
No, not really. The packet spells out what's required, and they meet all the requirements to be redesignated. So, decision is yours.
So, any comments, or are you guys good?
How long is this? Just indefinitely, or
for 5 years?
5 years.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Any without objection, we're gonna support this redesignation. It's gonna go now to full council. Thank you so much for all your work. You guys have been amazing, especially under the circumstances. And also, please send our regards to the board of NCEDC because they're doing a great job too. With that, this committee is adjourned.